I just didn't say the line right. Anyway. So there are two roles that I lost. One was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I got pretty close on Keanu's role. And the other one was...
You don't look like you smoked any pot in your life.
I was such a good actor. Nature of this business, right? And the other one was Say Anything, Lloyd Dobler. I wanted to hold the story.
More questions?
Oh yeah, wait, real quick. I lost a really great part in Private Idaho, Gus Van Zant's film. That was
You're born for that one. That must have hurt, dude.
Yeah.
God.
But the guy who got my part, I'm
never
not
worked
happy
again.
about it. Yeah, he OD'd and died.
Oh. Well, there you go.
How about the guy in the pink coat with the glove?
Yes, my question is for Robert. I heard that on Nightmare 3, you actually wrote a draft.
I did. And some of it showed up in a later Nightmare film, actually. But, you know, mine began with a college-age girl who was Amanda Wiss's older sister. And she was doing, and you guys aren't even going to know what I'm talking about now because we're so far advanced with technology. But she was looking at microfiche and doing the entire backstory on Freddy, Springwood, and Elm Street because she wanted to avenge Tina's murder. And she knew that something was hinky with that. And that's how it began. And we got even more richer backstory in the families and the parents. And then she became, you know, she would sort of been like Heather was in Nightmare 3. She would have been a college-age girl who was there to find the truth behind the murder of Tina in part 1. And that was basically how my script began. There was a couple of things that, you know, wound up in other Nightmare movies, but that's Hollywood, you know, you never know. I mean, people really do think of the same things at the same time, too. So you have to realize that that's part of the process.
I kind of wonder why we, the alumni of Nightmare on Elm Street, are still here while the studios made a new Nightmare on Elm Street. And none of those people are here, nor has that picture had any great success.
I have a question. Coming from the table. I have a question for, I wanted to ask the parents of Heather Langenkamp's, wait, your daughter, Heather's your daughter, and Heather's parents are here. What was it like raising, what's the backstory of raising Heather as a daughter? Because you have parents here. Heather's
What do you mean? What?
It's the father. But isn't it Brooke, Heather's mom?
No, that was Tristan's mom.
No. She's that dirty girl, Patricia Arquette.
Go now.
Slumming around now on Medium doing lots of Nightmare on Elm Street plots, by the way.
Yeah,
Don't talk about Patricia Arquette.
We defend her. They all fell in love with Patty.
I know that.
It was ugly. I think Rodney was writing love letters to her.
There were a lot of behind-the-scene romances. I couldn't keep up. I really couldn't. In fact, I didn't want to know. I just felt everyone was smoking too many cigarettes.
Heather was still a child.
I didn't even smoke at that time.
You didn't?
No.
Were you sneaking them?
No.
Heather was still practically a child then. But Heather had to become the surrogate mom to Patty because all the boys
I know.
had fallen in love with Patricia.
And I
on
did
the
more
set.
than wrote love letters.
And they wrote love letters, and they were like mooning over her, and it made. I mean, I was already, you know, in my 30s, but it made poor Heather had to play the role of the sort of
Like
Earth mother. You know?
The dorm. I was like the dorm mother.
Mom, yeah.
I was like the TA in your college dorm.
What did she say about me?
Oh, she loved it. My lips are sealed. To be a good dorm mother, you have to keep secrets. Let's just put it that way.
More questions? How about the guy in the back with the hat? Speak up.
Oh, that's a great question. You know, there are great actors, and just like all the people sitting at this table are great actors. You know, I never had an opportunity to go, whoa, I'm working with Johnny Depp. Though I did say that about working with John Saxon. I'm like, whoa, I'm working with John Saxon.
He's a father.
and even Ronnie Blakely, you know, she'd been nominated for an Academy Award, so that occurred to me like, whoa, I'm among pretty great people here. So, but with me and Johnny, we were both scared a lot of the time that we weren't going to do a good job, and so I think both of us were partners in, like, oh my God, are we doing okay? Do they notice that we don't know anything? And in fact, Johnny spent a lot of time in his trailer, as I remember, practicing, making sure when he got to set he was prepared and he wasn't going to make mistakes and not know his lines, which, you know, nowadays you often come to set and people don't know their lines. You're like, wait a minute, what's going on? But he was so conscientious, and he really wanted to do a good job.
He was a musician, and it's like an athlete that becomes an actor, or a musician that becomes an actor. It's a different way of working, and you have to really make some changes in the way you think, and in the way it's artistic, but it's different. It's a different discipline. Acting is more of a craft. You know, you can play music for yourself. You can't act for yourself. And I know I think that was a little bit of Johnny's transition. But you know, what Heather said was true with me too. I mean, when I knew that John was in the film, John is in 2 or 3 of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, John's so bored with the story about the Appaloosa, the film he did with Marlon Brando, or Joe Hill. You know, but also, and I'm going to get the title wrong, the Redford film, is it War Hunt? Yeah. War Hunt, yeah. Which was, when I was in college, all the guys that I lived with, we were obsessed with this film that John had done with Robert Redford, where he would go out into the no man's land and come back with scalps or something. I mean, it was like, and it was a great anti-war film. So I didn't have a lot of scenes with John, but because John and I had the same off time, I was often sitting next to John in a director's chair. We were hanging out at the Nightmare House in Hollywood for scenes, even though we weren't in them together. We were both working that night. And I was so intimidated by John, and I would every day, I would just sort of like sidle up to him at the craft service table, you know, with my coffee. I would think I had a lot of sugar and half in those days, and I would sort of like limit myself to like one little question until finally I felt, you know, not that I was an equal, but that I was even allowed to be, you know, on the same set with him. And with Patricia, we all knew that Patricia, you know, Patricia has like this amazing porcelain skin.